Bienvenidos todos. Yo soy Carolina Hausman, soy la directora de Casa Santa Ana. Nos encanta tener la oportunidad de compartir con ustedes y con toda la gente que está live en YouTube también. Y bueno, primero queríamos agradecerle al Museo del Canal por ser nuestra casa siempre. Y también contarles un poquito, para los que no saben, sobre Casa Santa Ana, sobre Zanele Muholi y, bueno, y lo que va a pasar hoy. Nosotros somos una fundación sin fines de lucro que conecta a personas a través del arte contemporáneo. Queremos que el arte sea accesible y sea relevante a la vida de todas las personas, en especial de los que no han tenido acceso. Por eso estamos en Santa Ana, trabajamos mucho con nuestra comunidad, con nuestros vecinos, con las escuelas de la zona y hacemos exposiciones, publicaciones. Tenemos un programa de residencias y una biblioteca infantil que se llama La Leonera, de la que puedo hablar infinito con el que me pregunte después. Entonces, el día de hoy es una oportunidad para compartir con Zanele Muholi. Zanele Muholi es una persona activista visual, fotógrafa, y nos va a compartir muchísimo sobre su experiencia, sobre su carrera, sobre su vida, sobre su trayecto artístico y lo que ha estado haciendo en Panamá estos días. Así que bueno, vamos a empezar con un pequeño videito introductorio y luego Zanele va a tomar el escenario, Muholi va a tomar el escenario. Les quería contar también, por si no nos siguen en redes, @Casa Santa Ana, nosotros estamos abiertos de miércoles a domingo, de 11 a 6, entrada gratuita, siempre hay un montón de cosas pasando y nos va a dar mucha felicidad tenerlos en casa cuando quieran. Así que bueno, al final de la presentación de Muholi vamos a tener preguntas y respuestas. Si alguien necesita audífonos, tenemos traducción simultánea, los audífonos están en la entrada. Así que, bienvenidos.
The most is the content. Who's in the picture and why are they there? My name is Zanele Muholi. I call myself a visual activist. I take photographs, I capture videos, I just capture the moods that maybe other people cannot see. So I focus mainly on documentary photography and portraiture per se of Black LGBTI people, just to be precise, of Black, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, intersex persons from South Africa. The work that I produce is meant to be for every person. It could be a teacher, it could be a mother whose child is queer and want to have a reference point to show to their kids and say that you are not alone. And it could be for the LGBTI people themselves to understand their worthiness. Then it becomes political to say, how do we politicize spaces with ourselves in a conscious way that tend to be ignored by those who are in positions of power. 2012 was one of the most painful years in our history. We lost a lot of members of our communities, and hate crime, specifically curative rapes and lesbian murders, became one of the brutality that is stained in our brains forever. I'm using visuals as a way of creating awareness, capturing the moments, those truths and realities the world will learn about our cultures. We want to bring about change in spaces that are queerphobic. Talking about photography specifically and the need to capture images of ourselves or of our lives is not necessarily about beauty per se, but it's about the need of documenting realities of people who deserve to be heard, who deserve to be seen, and whose lives are often excluded as part of the canon. I want to believe that the work touches the soul in ways that you don't often see. I like to call the people who are in my photographs not subjects, but participants. And I think that to say they're subjects, we're divorcing ourselves from human to human kind of connection that's supposed to happen. One of the projects that I've focused on is titled Somya Mangonyam, in which I'm praising my ancestry. I thought that it was very, very important for one to do so, because when we document and photograph other people, we tend to forget about ourselves. I wanted to find an artistic expression to deal with the painful experiences that I was going through, but drawing back to historical moments. I have photographed so many people, I have captured so many videos, and having documented painful experiences of other people without dealing with my own pain, I needed to remember me. I don't mind to be in front of the camera because I know how uneasy it is sometimes for people to be in front of the camera. That picture to someone looks beautiful or ugly, but to me, it means something because it's based on an experience that I have faced or went through. Only half the picture it's mostly about skin. I wanted to say that sexuality and gender of a person is skin deep. It's not about the clothes that we wear, how you speak, how you walk. The queer self is the heart. In my world, every human is beautiful. It's the kindness and what comes from within that is beautiful. It's not the outer layer. Then there's Brave Beauties, which is a series mainly of transgender women who are former beauty queens, beautiful girls that I've worked with for many years now. Then there is Faces and Phases, which is a series of black and white portraits featuring lesbian, bi, trans, and gender non-conforming bodies, mostly head and shoulders, which is in your face. I wanted the viewer or the person being photographed engage with each other, so each and every portrait becomes one biography. The fact that they are there means they have given our movement something that is whole, that helps the next person to know that they are not alone. It's one thing to say that photography is easy, it's universal, it speaks so many languages, but deep down to homophobes, queerphobes, and transphobes, it differs, because seeing maybe a flamboyant queen changes the context altogether, you know? So what then I'm trying to do now was to find a language that spoke to me as a Zulu-speaking person, to say, okay, I'm creating self and selves in space, and I want people to understand our existence and presence, to say, we exist. So that existence comes with a visibility that is positive. Photography has given me that space to express the self in ways that I would not have been able to if I use another medium. Photography, like videography, is super expensive, which I think it limits many people with beautiful stories and important narratives that could be conveyed. And I started without knowing where the work was going to end up at places like Tate. I knew that something important had to happen, but I didn't know that it was going to end up in places like the museums and important galleries around the world. South Africa is not a homogeneous space. We are a beautiful country. We have the most amazing and beautiful people too. I could say, like in any other space where there are human beings and its own challenges, we still live and we have hope that one day we'll get it right. Good evening, and thank you so much for your presence tonight. I'll try to keep this snappy, like brief. And I have to apologize for not speaking your language, but next time I come back, I'll try at least 20%. Yeah, it's like in each and every country or space that I go to, I meet all these few good men
And I'm here tonight because one of the best men invited me to be here in Panama. And we've been communicating for more than 6 years. I've been invited, same invitation, 6 Christmas pass. And then finally, I kind of like accepted the call. And Johnny, yeah, we getting started. I don't know whether I have to say thank you so much, my friend, or I have to say thank you so much, my brother. I don't know, but I have to say thank you so much for the invitation, for seeing me, for seeing us, for being patient, and for having the most understanding and good team behind you. And not forgetting your wife, because they say behind every successful man, there's a wife. I guess it should be the other way around. But to say thank you, Caroline, Isaac, Rita, everybody at CSA, you know what I mean? They said, big companies, they called by short names. So I had to find a way in which I shorten Casa Santa Ana into CSA. Yeah, it's a great honor to be in this island. I call it an island because it's a small country, which is like the size of my township. I love this place. The energy is right. The weather is fine. I don't mind to be wet and to be warm at the same time. Yeah, and I will be coming back for sure, because this invitation is based on understanding, on caring for the communities in which we live, and with the intention of not leaving anyone behind. So doing community work, doing humanitarian work, is activism, is part of all that is called care. So once again, to the technical team as well, thank you so much. And to my partners, thank you so much, Lavinia, for your patience and insisting that I prepare the slideshow on time. To my gallerist, Carol, thank you, dear, for being here. And to my son, thank you so much, Sipho. We adopt young men and young women all the way. So Sipho has become part of my skin. And I have to be cautious when I work with young people because I teach them responsibility. So we are not visiting the island. We are here to work. We are here to care. We are here to collaborate. We are here to connect because we care and believe that with such human connections, we'll definitely get it right, like I said at the end of this documentary. I'm not going to take long, even though I don't know how to compress or encapsulate work that I've produced for more than 20 years into 45 minutes. However, I'll try. I started working, I went to Market for a Workshop, which is a school that was started by my mentor, David Goldblatt. David Goldblatt will be like your Sandra Eleta here. And he was one of the best men, not queer, a father, had a wife. And I needed a mentor that will look at my work with a non-queer eye. Because if I chose a queer person or a trans person, we already know the narrative. But if it was a parent, something is doubling here, which is kind of like, what is it? Psst. No, I will use this, I could use my hand, but there's something that is distorting the sound. Anyways, when I started, I needed someone who is not a member of our community to see and critique the work. So I got the best person to do that, and he became a friend, and he was a father and a photographer himself. So he guided me And to be clear, you know, some of us, we come from spaces that are not privileged. And once we get to be in spaces that have almost everything that makes sense to us, we tend to use those opportunities with kindness. So I was given an opportunity by someone to express myself, to express my sexuality, to occupy spaces that I never thought that were possible. So Goldblood went as far as in like financing my master's in Toronto, where I studied master's in doc media. So with his kindness, I then decided that I will extend the love to a lot of youth and Black women in my area. So I'll try to make sense now, and the rest I'll respond to whenever you ask me questions. Thanks. So the year is 2003, as you see on screen, which is 22 years ago. I just completed advanced photography at Market for a workshop, and I thought that I would stick to what I understood. Documented community that I care most about, the LGBTQIA+ community. And to some queers in the house, happy Pride. We need that. And to those who are related to some, happy Pride to you too. And to parents in the house, thank you so much for giving birth to people like us. It's needed. And to those who don't understand, tough. There's nothing I can do about it, because people exist and we're here. We ain't gonna go nowhere. Yeah. So then I finished advanced photography. Then I practiced for so many years. And once upon a time, somewhere there in 2006, I had presented a paper at a conference because the aim was to educate communities and also to ensure that I share the queer culture and also produce the most massive Black queer archive. And as my work was shown there, I was discovered by a gallery that I worked with for almost 16 years. That was Stevenson Gallery. And I worked with them for so many years, and they accommodated me. They ensured that the work got out there in the world. So that was only half the picture, which then was published in 2006. And towards the end of this presentation, I'll show you some of my publications. And then 2006, I started working on a big project called, this is from only half the picture, and it shows female-bodied being binding breast, which is kind of like uncomfortable for most people who are passing as like tomboys, butch, and trans people, and you're having this breast that kind of like betray you in a way, because your sense of thinking yourself is not connected to that reality of being breasted. So I just wanted to show here a crisis in which most of my peers were facing. Some bind, some could afford to have top surgery. And in that way, it keeps them better or feel okay with their bodies. Then after many years of only half the picture, I ventured into Faces and Phases, which you're about to see. And then in between that period, I documented myself, every space that I occupied, because I was thinking to myself that it was important to document members of my community and also at the same time to look at myself and how uneasy, that's my own personal experience was. So this is from Somnyama Ngoyama, which is mostly self-portraits, and they are not selfies. I know that anyone and everyone could take the picture, but these are taken by a professional camera, and I use Canon most of the time for some people who own cameras. I come from an old school where I use analog, and it was Pentax and a K1000 when I was at school. So nowadays I just use Canon. So these are taken in every space where I am. This is in my lounge, and those are newspapers that I read. So I try to use any object or everything that is in my surroundings to capture that best image. And this image, I took it before I went for a complicated operation in 2016, December, 3 days before the op, as my body was changing and I didn't know what to expect. So this is what I keep on saying to people, to say that I just pick up a camera because really I needed to capture and produce images that I could not access when I came out. And as I grow older, still I still don't see these images that I long for. This is taken in one of the hotel rooms in Charlottesville, Virginia, when I was there for a photo festival. And I used a tripod, and it took about 10 seconds and 5 shots that led to this last image. And most of the time I work alone and either use remote or I set the camera self-timer 10 seconds. So within 10 seconds, anything is possible. A person could die in 10 seconds, a person is born in 10 seconds, a person vanishes in 10 seconds. But like I said, you have to get it right. Yeah. When I got here in Panama, we were at the CSA, and then Johnny just brought us there with Carol to see the space. And I thought to myself, it would have been so wrong to leave the space without a picture. I shared with the young people, you know, who comes to the space, to the foundation, to access the library. And I gave them a camera. They started, I advised them to take the images of themselves, and we got the best pictures of my first day in Panama, which now those images will live beyond us, beyond that moment that I landed, you know, in that space. Here, this is my moment in Philadelphia. I just arrived in Philadelphia for a project in 2018. I was invited to be on residency. And I ended up sharing that space with 10 locals, and we produced the biggest project called Women Mobile Museum, because I believe that museums are possible spaces that could be created by different people. Then I mentioned the Faces and Phases, which is another body of work. This person is Busisi Gasa, who then becomes that inspire or person who inspired this project, Faces and Phases. This is my friend and colleague. I'll speak as if Busi is here. She passed away a year after this project started. She was a survivor of curative rape at that time and succumbed to HIV complications. And she died in March 2007. So I pay homage to this person. And next year, in 2026, or say, let's not say next year, in 6 months from now will be 2026. And it will mark 20 years since I started working on this project. So none of my projects are funded by government because they are queer, they're not allowed to be done. So I try by all means to work hard to ensure that almost everything that I do is self-funded. In that way, it gives me a voice, you know, and autonomy to decide on how and when, you know, to circulate that work. I work mostly with people that I care most about, and people that I love, and people who make sense to me, who might mean nothing to other people who are posh or sophisticated. So I rely mostly on the community and extended friends who are part of the same movement. And it is either friends and friends of friends, or girlfriends and ex-girlfriend of our friends and our girlfriends. It's just madness. But we are a black tight community. Sometimes we have our own squabbles or conflicts, but at the end of the day, the image is captured, and which then informs, you know, the future or for those who might not be present at that time. This is 15 years ago. That is 15 years ago. So this image is about time. And when we speak of archives and queer archives, or just archive, or black archives, or anything archive, or human beings as part of the archive, we're then not producing that content for us per se, but we have children that we have given birth to, and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who will look back and say, my mother, my father was here at this time. So we're thinking, or we speak posterity, we think of movements, we think of people who made this country possible. We think of those that, you know, who shaped this narrative for us to be here, who might not be written in history, but they existed. So I'll just shift back a little bit. So Lerato is my colleague, and I've done a lot of work on this project. I used to travel with and wrote a lot of stories in Faces and Phases. Gazi is a friend that was introduced to me by my sister. And I mean, for some people who care for people, you say that there's a person who plays soccer, maybe you could join the team. There's a person who goes to the same church, maybe you could go to the same church. So my sister, each time she sees a queer person or a person who's like Butch, she's like, I have a relative too. Maybe you could have an understanding. So I've connected with quite a number of people through her. Either some youth who goes to the same church who are not understood in those churches and those spaces. So I have become friends with children that she adopts or adopted from different spaces. That's Faces and Faces, that's the book. That's the statement that is in the book. That was a long time ago. This book came out in 2014, which means that that was 2011. And can you imagine how many prides that people have attended? How many people born at this period? How many queer parents have decided to, you know, to raise children together, either as stepchildren or their own from that period? So then now that's Sarah, who's a filmmaker featuring in the project. This is Siska Priska, who is from Botswana, which is another country not far away from South Africa. So I get to cross borders with all of this work and document sometimes activists who are doing great work, who are appearing in their own, you know, countries, mainstream media, etc. I keep on working in that way. So if South Africa is still busy or hectic with their own politics and so on, I shift the focus from there and move on to another space for the sake of this archive, you know, yeah. So some work is used by scholars, some work is used by different people who care about the community. Some people are curious, they use this content. Some people are haters, but they cannot erase this visual history because it exists, you know. Some people, they refuse to understand, and unfortunately for them, they give birth to queer children. Then now they have a responsibility to take care of their own. Some other people are just rude and vile and have no peace at all. So it's not my responsibility to make them understand, because all I'm saying is like, your existence is as important as my existence. We all pay taxes in our own countries. So therefore, we should respect those that are different to you or different to other people. So go back a little bit. This is Faces and Phases, which is on show now in LA at Southern Guild Gallery. And I installed the show. It was open on the 16th of May until September 6th. When I negotiated with a gallery that I work with, I said, we cannot exist for only 1 month because we live our lives for 365 days. Please give me some time, some extra time. So we're going to be there for more than 3 months. Yeah. Luckily for me, I work with straight women or good women who have children and their husbands. So they tend to understand. Like I bother or worry Carol all the time, but she, luckily for me, she understands. So she has taken her time off to be here with us just to embrace this moment and also to engage with partners or collaborators in this manner. So that's Faces and Phases. in the background, and it features people that I've met in LA, Los Angeles, because when people think of LA, you won't even think of like Black queers, or they are hidden somewhere there. So I wanted to make sure that they're part of the Hollywood stars as well, you know. And then I shot some, okay, let me put it this way. I produced some photographs in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and also in Salvador. And I worked in Portugal, in Lisbon and Porto. And I also work in the UK, in London and Brighton and Brixton. So we are out there everywhere, basically. Yeah, and there are many more others who have shaped this movement, who will never be seen, or who have since passed, and whose voices matter, but they never had that opportunity to be documented in the most respectful way. So with those who are willing to participate, I respect and continue to document. This is how the installation looked like in LA. Otherwise, in any given space, I could occupy all walls and even the rooftop if given a chance, because there's a lot of these images, and there are more than thousands of them. For some people who are not like maybe familiar with the South African queer politics, I come from a country with the best constitution, where same-sex marriage is allowed, where we have the content of queer people as part of the curriculum. So there's a lot. With that said, from LA Walls to LA Live, these are all the LA participants that I've documented in 2024. And for every participant that you see there, nobody is under the age of 18. Nobody is in the closet. Nobody is forced to participate. So there's no gun held to nobody to participate. And Faces and Phases is part of many scholars, academic text. Here you're seeing the individuals next to their photographs. And these are professionals who are doing different things in their communities. And they have names and surnames, and interviews are done accordingly for you as the viewer to get a grip of who they are and what they stand for and why to do what they do. Lavinia interviewed 4 participants from here in Panama, and will continue to document especially those people who are free or willing to be part of this project. In Porto, I work with Fatu. Fatu's origins are from Sudan, but happen to be in the diaspora and live with their family there. And something they said when we took this image and said, when I'm out of the house, I dress up like a punk. But when I have to go back home, I have to put on a veil. This is what happens to some people whose reality is something else, because not every family accepts their own. Then in the series, we have Brave Beauties, as in how it says, brave beauty. The beautiful people who are brave to come out, who carries their communities this way, and who are beauty queens and community builders in own way. So these girls, Candice was taken, that image was taken 5 years ago, and then Lay, and this is Lay. I started working with Lay 15 years ago when she just finished matric. And then I work with Lay a year later. So these 2 images are taken in 2014, both of them. And Candice is, the image was produced in 2020. They are professional people. They understand who they are. Nobody is like forced to say, come now, wear swimsuits, let's go. So I work on this project and I make sure that I document at the beach in a mainstream public space for people to know that, all these public spaces are for everyone. So I queerize the public spaces and ensure that our people get to enjoy the same beach, the same sunshine, or everything that everybody has access to. There are pageant or previous pageant winners. So my head says, if the countries or our countries have Miss Panama, we have whatever queens in different forms, so as queer people as well. They need that recognition, they need that respect. They don't need to be tolerated. They need to be respected like everybody else. And so as the prizes that are won by the normal queens should be the same with the girls as well. So they are my brave beauties. Also beauty queens, like women, they come in different forms and shapes. There's Sazi Jali, who is the director of Trans Hope, and it's the first and only trans organization that exists in my province in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal. And then there's Miss T on the right, whose picture was taken in 2014. Unfortunately, Miss T passed about 3 years ago in a car accident, and she's no more. Then I look at the art as archive and also art for resistance, and think art for human rights. So some people don't just do art. Some people are pushing an agenda. So this is for human rights. And then that's the question of how do we deal with this archive collectively in order for all of us to heal. I work with my proteges. I have a scholarship. Every year I give a scholarship for people to study at Market for a Workshop, which is a school where I studied, and it was started by David Goldblatt. So far from 2013, I have produced more than 50 photographers, and most of them are good, and they shoot better than me. And these are some of them. Then I have people around me in which I provide cameras in order for them to document and continue to document when I'm not at home. Like last week, we had Pride in Durban. So I had a team that I've commissioned to document, because I cannot be the only one, you know? And I'm not the only one who's concerned. There are other concerned citizens who care about what is going on back at home. And we document everything from graduation parties to funerals to weddings. When one of our own gives birth to a child, we document that and we raise that child together. We kind of like get it somehow. Yeah. So the picture of the person on the left is Melissa. She's a trans woman. And then the picture on the right is Colin. And Colin is a trans man. And Colin was the first person to receive the scholarship in 2013, and Colin is one of the best photographers in South Africa. And that makes me happy, because at least we get to engage, you know, responsibly and talk about photography that we love the most. And I also encourage them to photograph themselves. So that's a self-portrait of Melissa. Melissa is one of the brave beauties. And that's a self-portrait of Colin after Colin had a top up and had to change the ID, because we have also access to gender marker. It means that once we have transitioned, you can apply for a new identity document that matches your gender identity. That's Sipho, who is in the room. Sipho deals with a very, very hard topic and looks at gender representation of queer people in the mainstream media. And Sipho is completing his master's at University of Cape Town. I also, like I said, the scholarship for people who are studying photography that I provide, Sipho works hard to make sure that he pays for his school fees to study his master's. We try kind of like do these things together. And Sipho is one of the best photographers, and currently on show in Washington, D.C. as part of the World Pride exhibition. Everybody who's around me, it's a must to know how to operate a camera and to document. Yeah. So for whoever is willing to engage and ask questions to SIPO, that's SIPO. And the projects that SIPO is working on is on circumcision. Xhosa men, they go for circumcision. But then it becomes something else if you are queer and you are with other men and you are about to be circumcised. And then one of the most controversial, it's not controversial, but one of the controversial documentary that was on national TV was called Ingleba, which means the wound. And it spoke of what is going on in the mountain when boys are going through that process. And women, even the mothers of these young men who goes for circumcision, they are not allowed to be present or to know what is going on in the mountain. So the boys are then initiated and guided by other men. Then it becomes another topic of gender and its complexities. Then now, in my Zulu culture, girls, they go for virginity inspection and they award a certificate for being pure and prepared to be married by men who might not be pure. So if a girl is a virgin, she gets certificates, she gets checked every month. She has the rights of giving the privilege of going to the reed dance every September. And then there are mothers who check these girls if they are still pure. Now, imagine you're a lesbian or a trans woman and wishes to go there, but have had a different past. So this space is for virgin girls. If you are not, don't even take chances. So that's the saddest truth. And also it comes with its own challenges and advantages. I, as a queer person, have no rights to judge anybody. But these things happen. With Xhosa culture, we have many tribes, but the most recognized one, they are about like 10, 12. And we have 13 official languages. This is South Africa, with about like 50 or 60 million people, especially those who are documented. So there's no proper statistic that speaks on the number of LGBTQIA plus people of all races. Yeah, and the race that's being much recognized will be white on top, even though minority. And then you have Indian people, then you have colored people, then you have black people who are a majority but still lack a lot of privileges because of the past, you know, that we all know, which was apartheid, which divided people because of how they look or because of who they are. So then the images on the left are of Lulu. Lulu also is one of the young people who gained like scholarship and studied at a different school, which is OMS. But Lulu was already a graduate at this time and has a degree in communications and PR. I work with Lulu from time to time, and she edits most of my work from time to time. And on her right is Nkosi, who's also one of the scholarship awardees and is doing great work. He is also currently on show with SIPO in DC. So back and forth, I mentioned the LA people. Faces and Faces has gone abroad. In 24 and 25, I worked in these places, as I mentioned. And the people here are from LA, like on big screen, the Netflix type of people who responded to the call when I invited them. And one of them is Zanele Muholi, who writes beautifully. And I really like his work, and I was so inspired and honored when he came to be photographed. So in that way, it didn't feel much lonely when I was in LA, because I got to engage with people like me and who had the same vision, you know, like mine. This is just my imagination of people passing. On the left is my self-portrait passing as a trans person. And on my right is my friend who's passing as a man but dealing with own crisis. So my crisis is different than them. So I just imagine these two worlds connected, because then it starts by the top, and the top becomes something else. Then there's haircuts and the way in which we present fully. So this is mostly on like politics of representing self. This is an extract from Zanele Muholi's book. So to say, all of us, we come from somewhere and we have a different vision, and going back and forth to say, I'm in the South, they are in a different space, but we're still like pushing the same agenda. So this is some of my intimate shots from Only Half the Picture, which is a publication that came out in 2006. I don't know how I'm doing time-wise. How am I? According to time? Okay, sure. And I just thought, you know, when people present and speak of queerness, of transness, we tend to remove it from intimacy. It's like we live and run and suffer all the time. So I always like to present that intimate kind of visual to say to people, yes, we go through so much, but sometimes we do find love and connect in a way that makes sense to us. The image on the right is of me when I was on residence in Amsterdam in 2009, and the image on the left is of Paul. Paul is one of the people whose work I like so much. And I like the mirrors, he likes the mirrors. Some of my work is mirrors, mirrors, mirrors. He likes the bodies and the connection and the intimacy. He loves Rotimi Fanagayote, who founded Autograph in London, whose work spoke to us, like how Robert Mapplethorpe speaks to many people who are queer. So I really like this picture on the left so much. And we don't show private parts just to respect people in the house who might be allergic. But we do show connecting bodies because it shows how people feel for each other sometimes. Yeah. Zanele Muholi, always. And then I wanted to share some books. Yeah. 20 years would mark the year in which I had my first manuscript, Only Half the Picture. And then 2010, South Africa hosted the World Cup. So this was meant to be for World Cup and for every sport woman or every queer person who played soccer to know that there are people like them. And then, there's African women photographers, #1. I was given a prize for the work that informed scholarship. And then they said, okay, that comes with a publication. I was excited because the publication lasted longer than anything else. Yeah, and then there's Faces and Phases, which will be 20 as well. Then there's Somnyama Ngonyama. And basically with these projects, I'm just like giving praises to my mom and just paying homage to her for giving birth to me and many of us at home. And my mom never got to be anywhere really. So every space that I happen to share or occupy, I always keep her in mind with me. And though she's late, she passed in 2009, I always feel and sense that she's present each time I talk about the need of this archive, specifically in which I look at self as her, because she's my DNA, I'm her DNA type of situation. But to say we connected by blood, we move alongside. Then people say, what are your pronouns? I'll say she, they, them, to simply acknowledge her presence and how I walk with her spirit wherever I am. So if you care about publications and you'd like to have at least a piece of something in a shelf, please come out. Then trouble started. COVID made us do things, and we did what we can. So during this time, I started painting. at the end of COVID, I started sculpting. During COVID, nobody wanted to be alone, you know, in a way that a lot of parents, you know, conceived around this period. And those children are called COVID-19. Here, just started an arts institute in which we wanted to extend the love and wanted to educate. And also it was an expansion of many other things that I did before. And then engage with different artists who came to the institute because I had a physical space like the foundation. And these are the posters from some of the speakers that we had. And it meant that all the friends and family members and connections, you'd have like women who come from organizing like entrepreneurs, some who are people who own like barrels, companies. Everybody and anybody came to the Art Institute and presented. We no longer have a physical space, but we have loads of archive that we produced at this time. And Sipo and Levina, they were responsible for this, and they made sure that these posters exist. So also Sipo had to speak about his work and why he did or he was doing what he was doing. So if you say you have friends, you need to have something to show for that friendship, you know? It can't be just, I've known you for 15 years, I've known you for 20 years. What's there that you could show for your nice friendship? I've got these posters to say that we are mobile now. Wherever we go, we educate, we share the visual cultures, we share the art activism, we share the archive that we have produced over time. And we share the love as well, you know? Yeah. And we really and truly believe in collaborations. Melissa is the one that is in those pictures there. And then I have my doctor who is there, Dr. Buso. Everyone who's connected to me had to say something to those that they didn't know. So I'll collaborate with my gynecologist, I'll collaborate with my dentist. I mean, these are the people who know my body anyway. So, and they have an understanding, we move along together. And if they don't understand basic things, I teach them. So we are fine now. So anybody and everybody came to the institute, you know, and most of these people are creatives in their own right, in their own way. Yeah. Again, this project wasn't funded by anybody. I self-funded this project. Nowadays, we are documenting most activities or spaces that make sense to us. From here, we documented much of what we've been doing in Panama. And then from here, we are going to DC. And then from Washington, DC, we go to document a Pride in San Francisco. From San Francisco, Levina goes back home. And then she comes back to Europe to document Amsterdam Pride. We keep on working and working and working tirelessly. And these guys are not even getting paid. They volunteer their time. And if at all I compensate Sipo, it's because I have something that day or some picture is sold. Other than that, I can't say, guys, we have thousands. I say, let's be patient until one day we get it right, because this life matters and this life is possible. Thank you so much for your ears. I'm told that I have to respond to questions. I'm here and willing to respond to your questions. Excuse me.
Can you, yeah. Thank you so much, Casa Santa Ana, and thank you so much for coming here from all over the world to speak to us about this. You said so many beautiful things, and you really enlightened me in so many ways. And you also taught me. And there's something I didn't understand. What exactly is a curated rape? If that's a okay question.
then you pick someone. And curative rape or corrective rape is a term that is used by perpetrators of sexual violence. So they would rape a lesbian or a queer woman or a bisexual woman, thinking that they'd fix them from this disease that makes that person to be allergic to men, basically. They think that you hate men so much, then you need to be fixed. So it's like to correct your wicked ways or wickedness, so you become a straight woman. A lot of people have been infected, a lot of people have died where they were raped and killed. We buried them because some gangsters, some vile people thought that they would fix, certain individuals for who they are.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Hi. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us today. I really learned a lot. And I was wondering, you said that you only photograph people that you know and that you love and care about. But I am curious about, what do you mean by knowing them? Would you photograph someone that you met 2 days ago here in Panama? Or no?
That's a very important question. If I say I know, I met Sipo 2 days ago in Panama, I don't necessarily need to know you for 20 years, but then knowing means you have said you are part of the community. Then it's safer for me to know what I'm about to engage with that person, It's like you meet someone and say, please come with me, my friend. But it's a stranger. How can I be friends with that person? So I mean that to say it's safer to document people that are part of our community. And it's like you know them because they've declared that they are those members. Then it's safer than to document a stranger, And some people in the series I've known, like I said, for 15 years, for 10 years, they are from home. I'll give you just one good example here. Second day of our arrival in Panama, we engaged with the members of the community of the LGBTQIA. And in the group, there was Ivan, who presented greatly, who gave us context and understanding of how it's like to be for members of the community here. We've been talking since second day. It feels like I've known this person for a long time, and it feels safe to be in their presence, So I'll say, I know. And knowing is not based on a period as such or duration. It means that it's safer. It's like to be with Johnny. I'll say, this is my brother. I don't necessarily need to share the same surname with Johnny, but Johnny make me safe and make the people that he works with safe. That feels like a person that you've known forever. But that minute of being safe means a lot because other people do not allow people to be who they are. I'm here to respond to your question. There's this thing to help us interpret. All languages are possible.
Hi, Zanele. I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming. Almost 20 years ago, I did my master's thesis at UCT in contemporary South African photographers. If you had told me in 20 years that Zanele Muholi would be in Panama, I would have said there's absolutely no way. So thank you for Casa Santa Ana for coming, and thank you for saying yes. I have so many questions, but first, why did it take you 6 years, right? And then if I could add a couple of follow-up questions to that, how do you choose where you go and photograph, or does that depend on the invitations? And then my last question is, how has photography changed the landscape in South Africa, and how safe do you feel photographing today?
Why it took so long. To be honest, I didn't know where Panama is. I never even researched. I'll tell you, I just launched my book, Somnyama Ngonyama, in Paris. I think that was our first encounter with Johnny. And at this time it was, I think, 2018. And Johnny came with his wife, and we chit-chatted. I mean, you meet people and you think like, okay, they see you as somebody like a star. And I always try to remove that and just keep away. So this guy came to me, I'm like, okay. And he said, okay, I'm Johnny, and we own some of your work with my wife. And I just look at this guy, I'm like thinking, I always hear these stories. Maybe he's one of those guys who will come out on behalf of his kid. Because the mother, they start with that question, like, how can we get you to the space that we have, da, 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 da. And I look at this man and he said, do you mind if we take a picture? You won't believe it is that picture that speaks to us, that refers back to where we met. So I really appreciated seeing this image now, like this year, because I mean, we've grown a lot and so much has happened since then. And then I kept on, I don't know who contacted who first, but we kept on writing to each other. And I lost the phone with the pictures that he shared with me. And the information that, I mean, he keeps the archive. So he showed me in the week that actually this is what we've been speaking about. And he still asked if I could come here. And then one of young South Africans came here on residence. I'm like, okay, then it means it's safe to go there. And Neo Matlocha was here. And he shared, I don't know if it's Johnny or Neo who shared the images of kids at the foundation. I was like, okay, if Neo could be here, then I have to go and check Johnny if my invitation was still open. And he didn't even make a doubt. He said, where are you now? Do you think you'll come to Panama? I said, for sure, for sure. I see that Neo was just there. So, yeah. So, I mean, it is through other people where we feel at home and safe, and also others make sure as well. I only go to spaces where I could be myself, where I don't have to think twice of who I am. There's no hidden agenda. I have no pseudonym. I'm myself. So then I responded to this call. Then, because of someone who's been here and also this guy insisting, it felt okay and safe. So we came here. The question of safety at home and the South African photography and the landscape. South Africa is beautiful. You know, South Africa is a beautiful country. I won't lie to you. I wish I could just invite Moses to come and work with us. I could invite Rogelio to come and work with us. And all the guys that I've met here to say, guys, come see South Africa. And when I speak, I try not to sell any negative anything because of the queer politics, of the nonsense that is going on around the countries where we're born or where we reside. So I always try to push the positive imagery of this country called South Africa. Do I feel safe? I always think to myself, you know, fear leads to silence, fear leads to absence, fear leads to anything that makes people end up not realizing their dreams. So I'm very intentional with what I'm doing. And sometimes I fear, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I think that if it's time for me to go, I'll go, because that will be my path. So I've gone through this or many things in my life, and I'm still here. So maybe I still have another 10 years or 20 years to come. West of, I met Sandra Eleta, who has worked with the foundation as well. And I say, please God, make me live up to that far. I wanna be like that person when I matured. So, and when you look at the person's book and think to yourself that it was not easy, but she was patient or she persevered, you know. So it is through other people as well that keeps me going and make me wanna see many more years to come. And also to say that I cannot, like I don't even know what else to do except photography. And I would say to people, this is like water. We need to drink water every day. So photography then becomes that tool that keeps me alive. Yeah. What was your other question in terms of like how it's like now? It differs. It depends on where you are. A person, say for instance here, who's in Portobello versus a person who's in the city here, their approach and way of thinking and looking and how they approach their project or approach photography differs, you know. A black woman in the township versus a black woman in Cape Town Observatory. A black woman who is in Khayelitsha versus a person who is in Woodstock, as you know, Cape Town. The issue of safety, you know. Can you become a black female photographer in Khayelitsha? Yes, you can, but you have to be extra careful. Can you become the best female filmmaker like Lavinia? Yes, you can, because she's got transport, she drives herself, she gets to different spaces or events, and she doesn't have to worry about how she gets home with the equipment, sort of, you know. It depends. It depends from each person. Yeah, otherwise so much has changed, you know, from when you were back at home and now. And there are a lot of people who are coming out as photographers. There are a lot of people who are brave to say they are queer and they are here. And there's a lot of beautiful work that is captured by so many people. Yeah. Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
It's a pleasure just being here, just listening to the beautiful presentation you just gave. I had maybe two questions. First was, before making your photography projects, when did you start thinking like, okay, I think photography is gonna be the means for me to make my point across? And also, how important or what topics did you think were gonna be the most important to treat in that first project you made?
When did I realize that I wanted to photograph? Is that a question?
Yes.
Okay, sure. I came out at 16 and I was 19 when I really got troubled. I needed therapy, and then I didn't have access to a therapist or shrink. My grandmother just died, and I thought that it was just the end of me. My mother worked as a domestic worker, so she was hardly at home. And it meant that my elder sister became our mother, and she was really harsh. So now as an adult, I understand that if given a chance or had access to a camera back then, I would have visualized that reality of not having a mother when I needed her the most, you know. I lost my father when I was 2 years, so I never knew like having a father figure in my life. So these are now these images that I question or investigate when I touch the topic of masculinities. So if you were to say, go back to 19, what image will I capture? I will capture images of a working woman, a domestic worker, and I'll document, you know, portraits of domestic workers and allow them an opportunity to share their stories of what it means to be a domestic worker, having to raise 8 children on her own without a husband. I will make that world, I will reenact those scenes as how I lived that life, you know. The other, you know, angle that I would take, growing up in a household where most of my sisters had children as teenagers. So in a way that I care most about young girls, you know, because I know that reality of being in that space with a lot of girls raising children, you know. My other sister had a firstborn at 14. My other sister had a firstborn at 16. My other sister had her child, her firstborn, at 17. So I grew up in that household of like teenagers being mothers before they even realize what it means to be an adult, you know. And west of like sober, you know, young women who didn't find joy maybe in other things, but maybe sex was the best way in which they could opt out. That's my reality. Then I think it's kind of like shaped my queerness because I didn't see anything interesting. And my older sister would say to me, never ever allow a man to take you to a hotel because that doesn't mean love. Then in my headspace, I was like thinking, it means that I have to work hard to take myself to a hotel so that there's nobody who will then entice me in that way, in a way that it has informed Somyama Hotel series. If you get hold of my book, you'll see hotel rooms in different places, abroad and home, yeah. So I like the idea of women existence. I like the idea of young girls, you know, to work with them and also to say that life is possible, you know, to say that you still have a chance in life, to make choices, especially if there is a caring neighbor or somebody who look after you and care for you and not abuse power. I have to be very careful. And when I speak with young girls, I speak to them as adults. And when I demand my assignments, because I don't want them to be distracted, but also to know that they can, because I was once that girl child. I know how it's like to be 13 years old. I know how difficult age 16 is when you don't have a support system. So I know how harsh age 19 is when you have to make decisions, you know. So most of my work is based on my experience and realities of being, really.
And also, if there's a possibility of a third question, basically. But how does it feel for you now, knowing more about your story? How does it feel to be able to create more spaces for queer people now with the like amount of work you do now? Yeah, like how does it feel to be able to create more spaces for the people around you and also the community?
You know, I treat spaces like foundations, spaces like galleries as classrooms, because most people who go to these spaces are non-converted. It means that some of them might not know of this information, or it never crossed their minds how important it is. And also to say that when I come out or when one of the staff members come out within that setting, it's like the whole foundation comes out, because it teaches the colleagues how to care. like being at the foundation now, for me, I'm more like at school with other classmates. We have to share information, we have to care, we have to consume art consciously. It's not like Johnny woke up one day and say, I want to start a foundation. It's based on experience. It's based on something else. It's based on the need of someone saying, I just want to change, you know, my city. I want to change my country. I want to listen and care for my colleagues and my staff members of the team. That's Johnny. But the fact that I'm able to come to the space and engage with my peers in the most sensible and safe way, it makes sense to say that these spaces are possible there are people out there who really don't care who we sleep with, but who care about us because we are family members to them, you know. So for me, this then forms part of my activism. Taking activism from the streets where people are like throwing fists in the air. And I said, I've done that. Now there are spaces in which we could say or convey these messages. And some people will understand, some people don't understand. And I found the art world the best space in which I could speak without fear of being judged. So the museums are possible spaces because the museum have less content that speaks to LGBTQIA+. Of all the collections in the world acquired by museums, they still lack that content of queer creatives, of trans creatives. So therefore, I'm forced to make sure that when given that opportunity, I speak on these issues and promote the work of other people like Sipho, like other works of Lavinia, and give that space to ensure that our members get to create and present and engage with audiences that do not have the same information. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, I have two short questions. The first one is, you mentioned that you got the chance to work through CSA with a group of female photographers. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit more about like what you guys did or whether they're gonna keep working by themselves while you're not here. And the second one is, when you mentioned the people that you photographed, you said that all of them are already out of the closet. And I was wondering, like, the fact that that's an important part of the process, is it because to protect their privacy, or the fact that you want them to have sort of like pride in who they are already when you photograph them, or whether that is not necessarily part of the...
Like when I mentioned that age 18 as the age of consent, to being out of the closet. Because, yes. I mean, when you're out of the closet, it comes with responsibility as well. It comes with issues of safety.
Yeah.
I have to care that you are safe. You have to consent. You have to sign the consent form. You have to read it in your own language. Somebody who's an expert in that field need to make sure that you understand. So before we started working yesterday, also I treat what I do as work. We had a round table. We don't need to photograph if you are not ready. And then we have to sit down and talk. I need to know a little bit about you. So like I said, I work with Ivan, I work with Chris, I work with Johnny, I work with Johnny, and also I work with Maya. We sat down, we had a very, very important conversation before we started shooting. After photographing someone, then I referred the person to Lavinia. Lavinia then gets to interview people. And we know that that consent form is great. If, say, I photograph Sipho and Sipho changes mind, if that image is not published, then it's okay. But before we complete everything, I have to explain to you that you shall be seen beyond just Panama. This work will be seen beyond just this space. So that's what I mean by making sure your safety, your concern. If you have any reservations, keep it to yourself, respectfully. Then the issue of what I'm doing with girls. I wasn't tasked to do anything with girls. I just happened to be in Panama, day one. I played with kids, gave the camera, they shot. It was nice. Went back to the apartment, edited that, and I shared with the group that is created by CSA. And it was fun, because it basically means introduction. You know, I have to speak to the forces and the spirits. I'm here and I'm safe. Everybody's good. And these are your children that we've met. Those are the children of CSA, the young kids who are at the library there. And I'm thinking also, when we think of like arts, I don't like it when we teach them children's thing. We need to teach them responsibility. They had to carry the big camera that I use for work. They have to produce the same image like how I produce it. And I'm happy with this. I mean, it's evident that they took those images because we photographed them as they photograph each other. And then I gave them basic things like frame, focus, and shoot, frame, focus, and shoot. Then I requested if I could have a photo marathon, which was meant to be for 30 minutes. I teach photography in 30 seconds. I teach photography in 30 minutes. I could teach photography in 3 days, could teach in 30 days. But the best ones are the short ones, where I see you now. It's like visiting a doctor and you don't have to go for your second consultation. You're here, hi, how are you? You get healed, don't see you again until next year. So I did a quick thing with the young girls that are known by the institution in which Caroline had to conduct some with Rita at the institute. I like them. I like how young girls think. And one, because we don't have many young female photographers in any space. And I think that girls could do better. Yeah. And they could have better, recreational time to spend, So they're nice 6 young women and they have potential. So they've produced some work, we downloaded what they've done. They got the foundation cameras. They will continue with what they do. And we'll see as we get along how this could become. And I've been training for more than 15 years, and some of the youth that I've trained from Benin to Oslo to different parts of the world, they are good photographers. Like I said earlier, they shoot better than me. And I think that if we could do things like this, we could get it right. And also to say that there are so many stories that are left untold because people don't have either equipment or they don't have resources, and I mean human resources, and also mentors who could guide them to become the next generation of photographers. So we have done something, and I think that somebody could continue with where I started, but I'll be coming back and monitor how they do, and with the foundation and the foundation's team and many other people, if we could have a book for the children of this place. And it could be done because you have a beautiful country. But then now to say that these images are taken by the generation of this time will even be more better. And when the library grows, we'll have that book that is done by the children of the foundation. And that's my dream. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zanele Muholi, for sharing with us. And thank you to everyone. Muchísimas gracias a todos los que vinieron. Gracias por acompañarnos. Thank you, thank you, thank you.